Hi there, it's Riikka Kovasin here again with another project for the 15 Supplies and 3 Projects series. If you're just jumping in and didn't see the video I posted yesterday, it's about using the same products in 3 different projects in different ways. On top of those 15 supplies, I'm allowed to use any adhesive or scissors or paper cutter, that kind of tools. For my first project, I made a card, and today I'm making a layout. As I said yesterday, I'm only using white cardstock, so every pattern paper that you can see in the finished project is self-made. So for this layout, I started with a 12 by 12 white cardstock and started making my background. As I only have one paint kind of product, white gesso, I used the dye sprays to color that to get more different tones. I first added Izink dye spray honey to white gesso, mixed that up, and then applied it to my page. I make the same thing using 2 other colors as well, Blue Moon and Lavender. I'm using a big brush and kind of making my strokes visible so they kind of fade in to near the edges of the paper. This time I don't dry between the colors, as the consistency of the medium is totally different than that of just the dye spray. This is more like acrylic paint. For the next layer, I'm adding some stamping. I chose a couple of words from the Journal Jargon 9 stamp set, mounted them on top of my stamping block, and then stamp them repeatedly to the background. After some pencil marks, I'm ready to start making my own pattern paper to go behind the photo. Again, my starting point is white cardstock. I'm using the dye inks, but this time I'm stamping with them. So I spray a little bit of the ink on top of my stamping block and then dip my Eclectica 3 number 48 stamp on top and create this bubble kind of pattern. I changed the colors, so there's the Blue Moon, Lavender and Honey all mixed together. As you can see, the look is similar to watercolor. I continue patterning those little pieces using white gesso next. For the background of the 2 in the bottom of the sheet, I used the acrylic paint styled colored white gesso again. So I'm just spraying some white gesso to my palette and then picking it up with my stamp. Remember, as this is acrylic based, you really need to clean your stamp carefully after using such a medium with a rubber stamp. Then I add some contrasting pattern. It's the same stamp throughout all of the layers, but this time I'm using it with Archival ink jet black. I'm also starting to make my embellishments. Earlier on, you could see a stamped image on the corner of those pattern papers I made with the Carabelle Studio little Skittles stamp. And now I'm making some buttons to go in my page. As the buttons I chose for these projects were all white, I'm using the Aladine Izink pigment ink to color them golden. Then it's time to start putting everything together. I'm making a little bit of background using old book pages and just tearing pieces out of a sheet of that book paper using a metal ruler. I'm adhering these to my background using double-sided tape. I also cut the pattern papers to smaller pieces and then started making the layers behind my photo. I usually just cut random pieces, no measuring whatsoever, and then start to build the layers in my hand. For attaching the layers together, I use a stapler because that allows me to put something between the layers in layer stage if I want to. And also it's easier for me to attach them because I can just staple a couple staples and they are done. I don't have to put everything sturdily with double-sided tape or adhesive, because also that allows me to have some dimension in the page. While I made most of the composition pre-hand before I started taping again, you can see me add some little details still. I use foam tape to adhere my photo on top of the cluster and then add a couple of paper clips as a detail to the side of the photo. I feel that the composition is, maybe because all the colors are the same, a little bit drowning in the background, so I'm making something to gather attention to the photo, even though that's the hardest contrast, so you're naturally kind of drawn to it, but still it needs something to tie everything together. For that, I'm using, again, circle. I realized after making the two projects and then the third that that's kind of a common theme in all of the three as well. For this one, I'm using first a pencil to draw those circles and then highlight it using the Aladine Izink Pigment Ink Royal Gold. I add also some golden splashes to the background. Then it's time to start putting everything together, but first I need to color that little girl I stamped using the Carabelle Studio Little Skittles stamp. For coloring, I'm using the dye sprays. I'm treating them like watercolor, so I spray a little bit of the color to this plastic cap and then pick them up using a wet brush. I'm also mixing the colors to allow me to have more different shades or tones in the coloring. Now I have my photo cluster in place and then adding a little bit of washi tape here and there. Then it's time to add the girl in its place, but thinking a little bit about the placement of her. My first idea is to put her to the right side of the photo, but I'm fearing that I'm covering too much, so I test other spots too, but the right side feels the right one, so that's where I'm then attaching her. Then it's the golden buttons I colored, and then I pick up the white gesso and make some journaling lines to the busy background, so it's easier for me to write the journaling afterwards. After taping, I also stamped one of the words from the journal Jargon 9 and used that kind of my title of the page. I chose maker because that's the word or title I identify the most. Thank you for watching today, and I'll hope to see you again tomorrow when it's the third and final project with these supplies. I hope you have liked the idea so far. Can't wait to show you a bit more. See you!